Hi everyone, I'm May McCarmo and I'm your host for Breathe TV, a safe space to come to exhale and be your best intuitive self as you navigate your breast cancer journey. When I first got breast cancer, I didn't know anybody who looked like me, who talked like me, who felt like me, and who was my age, color. I felt so at a loss for community. And so building a space like Tiger Lily and Breathe gave me a way to meet other women like myself and to give people a space to come to be able to feel like they could be who they are and to exhale as they navigate breast cancer. Before we start, I always do a grounding meditation or a mantras because if you're here, you may have breast cancer, you may be going to surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and be feeling overwhelmed about just living with cancer. If you're driving, keep your hands on the wheel. And if you're not, you can put one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Close your eyes and repeat after me. I am loved.
I am loved.
I am resilient.
I am resilient.
I know my unique voice.
I know my unique voice.
I am here for a purpose.
I am here for a purpose.
And I will live that purpose.
I will live that purpose.
There is only one me.
There's only one me.
She is brave.
She is brave.
She is a warrior.
She's a warrior.
She's covered in light and in love.
She's covered in life and love.
And so it is. Paige More is one of the co-founders of the Breasties and a previvor and a 4-time Emmy Award-winning producer. And Dani Trops, right?
Yep, Trops.
Dani
Tropicana.
And Dani Trops, Tropicana, is somebody I got to love over TikTok during the pandemic. So without further ado, Paige and Dani, welcome to Breathe TV. Paige, tell me about the Breasties, how you guys started, and it's you and 3 friends, right, who are co-founders of the Breasties?
The Breasties really came out of a need for community, for support, for resources. When I was first diagnosed with the BRCA1 genetic variant, I was 22 years old. I just landed my dream job. I was living in New York City. I felt completely invincible. I feel like I have the story of so many people when you find out something at a young age, like whether it's a cancer diagnosis, a predisposition to cancer, family history, or a family member gets diagnosed, it feels like your entire world comes crumbling down. And I went from feeling invincible, unstoppable, to feeling like completely powerless almost. I felt so scared, so alone. And I felt like I couldn't trust my body because my oncologist sat me down and she said, you have an 87% chance of developing breast cancer and a 67% chance of developing ovarian cancer along with some other cancers. And we're going to start intensive screenings for the rest of your life. We're going to start right away and it's go time. And I remember going home that night and looking in the mirror and just thinking, I don't trust my body. I feel like this isn't an if, it's a when. And it was really like my entire life changed overnight. I'd lost so many people on my father's side to cancer. They get diagnosed very young. It's a very aggressive cancer. And I just felt like I was going to be next. And I knew that I didn't want that to be me. I felt like I didn't want to feel powerless. I felt like knowledge is power and I could take preventative action. I'm such an advocate for preventative care, preventative health, and doing everything that you can when you do have that knowledge. I felt incredibly privileged to be able to have that knowledge. I know how fortunate I am to have had genetic testing. So I'm a huge advocate for that as well. 2 years later, I decided to have a preventative mastectomy, even though so many people told me not to. They told me that I was going to lose my sense of self. They told me I was no longer going to look or feel like a woman. They said that I could lose my job, that I could lose my health insurance, like so many things. They said that my partner would no longer love me or accept me, just like all these worst case scenarios. And it was 2017 when I decided to undergo my preventative mastectomy. And there were very few resources online at the time. People weren't sharing this on social media yet. And it was really scary. The articles I could find were very negative, worst case scenarios. And I just felt like I don't want that to be my story. I want to have a positive experience, and not in a toxic positive way, but just in a way of like, I want this to be something that I go through. I want this to be something that doesn't have to necessarily define me, but something that empowers me to feel like I took, control of my life. I took control of my health, and then I'm going to continue on in a way that makes me feel however I so choose to define it. I tried to find other people that I could connect with. I tried to go to other support groups. Everything at the time was very, very siloed. So, you know, it was previvors here and survivors here, those living with stage 4 here, like everything was so separated. And I just didn't understand that, because I feel like, why are we focused on what our differences are versus what brings us together? I started sharing my story online really for my little sister. And almost overnight, I connected with first 10, then hundreds and thousands of other breasties that were just like me or that had different diagnoses, survivors, thrivers. And I started hosting meetups. I posted on Instagram, I'll be at this place at this time, come if you can. And I didn't think anybody would show up, because who would meet a stranger on the internet? It turns out the first meetup, 13 people came. And then the next meetup, 20 people came, and then 30, and it just continued to grow. And I connected with my incredible co-founders. We all had different stories, different diagnoses, backgrounds. And that's really how the Breasties came to be, is we decided to host our first ever retreat. And at that first retreat, we brought 10 survivors, 10 previvors, thrivers, you know, all different people, all different backgrounds, all different diagnoses to the mountains for the first time, because we felt like we needed to go skiing and snowboarding and show you that your body can do so much more than just get sick, and prove that you are so capable. Show you can get to the top of the mountain, and we're going to help you get to the top, and we're going to help you get to the bottom in the most fun way possible, and help you build community and support. And after that first retreat, we weren't a 501c3 nonprofit yet, but we got back, and all of these people were reaching out, all these breasties saying, when's the next one? When's the next one? So we incorporated, we became an official 501c3 nonprofit. And from there, our mission has really evolved. And now we support and improve the experiences for those impacted by breast and gynecological cancers through peer-to-peer connection, resources, advocacy. We raise money for stage 4 breast cancer research. It really has become my mission, my purpose in life. I left my career as a breaking news TV producer at Good Morning America to commit myself full time to this. It really means the whole world to me, truly.
I think that we oftentimes, like, we tell our stories and we say we were here, then we're here, but there's so many things that have to happen for you to get from 10 people to 400, and your following is like several thousands of people, like 10 more than that. And I mean, when I first got diagnosed, I didn't have community, so I built it, but I've never had a Camp Breastie. And when I walked into the energy of that space, I was like, what in the actual F? Like, this is freaking epic. There's music, people were dancing, there was walls and flowers. And I mean, we actually had a fireside chat at a fire. And I looked around me, I was like, oh my God, everybody here has had breast cancer or is a previvor in some way. They're of all colors, all stages, all sexualities. It was what you set out to do. It was build community of one of love, right? And your soul is like so freaking fire. It is. I just love you to pieces. Dani, I discovered you on social media because when COVID happened, we were all on TikTok. And I found myself drawn to your page because you had authentic content. You spoke in your own voice. You shared where you were emotionally, physically. Share with the viewers, what made you go on TikTok? What made you start to be so authentic?
It's funny because it's kind of really the pandemic was part of that. I mean, I was sharing my story a lot on Instagram before that. And honestly, when I started on social media, it was really for a place for me to share my journey with my friends and family, because I was getting like so many text messages all throughout my journey to be like, how is today? Like, what treatment are you on? And like all of these questions. And I was like, okay, here's my Instagram handle. You're going to see it all there, because I couldn't keep up with the messages, which is so sweet. And I'm so grateful for the amount of love that everybody was giving. But I just, in that time of overwhelming things like surgeries and treatments and everything, I was like, one place. And then it really truly became my creative outlet and gave me something to like look forward to and to build. And like, I love the creative aspect of it. That's just like something that's, I think, deep within me and within my blood. I just love being creative. So that's how that started. And then when TikTok came to be, I did one video where I was teaching people how to do a self-breast exam. Because
that's the one I saw, the first one I saw.
People don't really talk about that much. I'm not seeing it across this. And there are a lot of younger people on here that probably have no clue that you can even think about breast cancer. And that one just got like so much traction. And from there, I was like, I'm just going to start telling my story and start sharing my journey. And things just kind of unraveled organically, honestly. I always made a commitment to myself, like just do things that you love and share the things that feel true to you and don't really do anything other than that. So it's cool that it's something that people resonate with. And that's what I'm just going to continue to do.
How would you advise somebody who's beginning on social media to share their unique self and be open, honest, and comfortable doing that?
The best advice I can give is like, the experience you have is worth sharing. And that's kind of like the thought that I had when I started sharing like little nuggets of each of parts of my experience. And I think it's really just like telling it in the way that feels true to you. And that's going to resonate with people. It's like not trying to be something different than yourself. I feel like that's how I go about content. If I have a thought that I'm like, oh my God, this side effect with tamoxifen, I'm going to talk about that because it's like something that comes up in the moment, or it's something that like I think about and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to talk about that today. And sometimes it just like organically comes to light. Like the video that I made that of just like random objects replacing nipples like that I found throughout my house, that was completely random. I just had this very funny thought that I was doing it and I just decided to film it. And that just came to be a part of my series of content that I do on TikTok. That's probably my biggest advice. Just share what feels good to you, and don't care about anyone else. It is for you and potentially for other people. It's going to help other people. If you're sharing your story and your experience, you're just not going to know it until you actually do it.
And you, Paige, there's some policy recently that you could share where you got all your friends in your whole community to kind of advocate for the policy. You weren't on Capitol Hill on the steps, you weren't in the halls, but you were on your social media channels talking about this. You had people reposting it. Do you want to share what you did, Paige, with that policy?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, like, going back to your last question definitely feeds into this. I think, when it comes to advice as to sharing your story, I think, share what you know, and it can change. For me, everyone's advocacy journey looks different. And I think if you're watching this, I want you to know you are an advocate. And I think there's a lot of people in this space that disagree with that. I think some people think, you need specific training, you need to take this course, you need a certain amount of experience. And I just don't think that's true. If you have a story and you're willing to share it, you're an advocate, period. If you have the ability to sign a bill, a petition, or just add your signature onto something, like, you're an advocate. If you repost something on social media and encourage other people to sign it, you're an advocate. And I think that we need to encourage and empower more people to know that their voices matter, that their signatures make a difference. Like, I think a lot of times we see things online and we're like, oh, my signature isn't going to make an impact. Like, I'm just going to skip this one. It's like, no, like, every single signature does add up and does make a big impact. And so I think for me, when I first started, I started by sharing what I knew, which was my own story. And I didn't see those stories out there. So I just started sharing mine. From that grew. And that was my like story sharing era of share my experience. And then I went into the era of like creating the Breasties, along with my co-founders, and started sharing that part of it. And that was that era. And now it's really become this era of advocacy, and now empowering other people to become advocates and really empowering people to get paid for sharing their stories. And so I'm in the middle of creating an agency right now where I'm teaching people how to get paid and get paid really well for sharing their story. When it comes back to the sunsetting of the S code, and really protecting access for breast cancer, for protecting access for breast reconstruction, that was a huge initiative that the Breasties decided to take on, that I personally decided to take on, and harness the power of social media, harness the power of the community, and empowered the community to know that, yes, your voice matters. Every single person in the community that joined on reached out to their networks. And that's how we were able to get thousands and thousands of signatures within days, got the attention of CMS, got the attention of Congress. We did end up going to the Hill. We did end up meeting with Congress. They're paying attention, and we find out next month whether or not they're going to reinstate the S code. And it's looking really good. So fingers crossed. And I think it just goes to show that I have so much respect for every single way somebody chooses to be an advocate. I have so much respect for the other advocacy organizations that have laid so much groundwork. And I also really respect the way that we're choosing to do it. And I think that we can work really well together. I don't think that there's one way or the other. I think we have to work together. We have to support each other. And when we say we're supporting each other, we have to really mean it. I think that we have to, like, when a door opens, you have to hold it wide open and like help each other get through that door. I really don't understand why someone would open a door and then slam it shut for someone else and be like, figure out how to open it. That's something that I love so much about you, Mayma, is like, you open so many doors and you hold it wide open. And you're like, here you go. I'm going to keep it open for you, and like run in. And then you not only open the door, actually, you hold it open, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to push you through it.
Yeah,
let's go. You literally are pushing people through. And that's what, I think I do that too. I really hope to do that. I really believe in giving people the keys to the castle, truly. And so I think we need more transparency. I think we need more people that are just saying, like, this is exactly how you do it. This is how you can become an advocate. This is,
Why compete in a space, or why hold things proprietary that could save someone's life, right? If I learn something and I can help you get that knowledge earlier, I tell people that you have more strength than you know and more power than you may know, right? Giving your friends, support and love and empowerment, and then supporting their platforms with like getting them out there and people knowing about what they're doing. I think that's how you get towards a world that we want to see, one where we have equity in cancer care, where we have community, where we don't feel alone or ostracized or less than because we're not like the other people.
But don't you think, Mayma, that on that note, that it is on us, that as white leaders, as people that do have white privilege, it is on us, especially let's talk about social media, right? It's so much easier for somebody, let's just be honest here, and they have data supporting this. It's so much easier to grow as a white creator and in the white space. And so I do feel like it is on us to help amplify the voices of community members of color, Black women, BIPOC community members in general, for us to amplify the stories and voices of those in the community, talking about opening doors. I feel like that's something that we have to be doing in this community more of.
100%.
And supporting each other and also protecting our community better.
The fact that it is harder to be a BIPOC patient on social media, that's one of the reasons why within our Angel program, I know you mentioned, like, do I have to be in a course? No, but we think from my perspective, people don't know how to even start being an advocate sometimes. So we say, like, you know what? Take the program, because being out there is scary. You're putting yourself in front of the whole world to say, I love you or you suck, right? And people can be hurt by that. We're saying that if you get on social media and you get trolled or attacked, you're still safe. You can contact somebody at Tiger Lily. Like, we'll tell you how to respond to those kind of things, because people will attack you, whether you're saying the best thing in the world or not. I think it's important to have that allyship. And that's why I love partnering with people like you guys, because we can't do it alone, nor should we, right? Can you share a bit about the things that you share on your Insta and TikTok, and how you use that platform to influence change amongst patients, providers, anyone touching that woman in their healthcare journey?
My original thought process when I started creating more content around my experiences and my story and all of that, and then even just showcasing what boobs can look like, it was really the thought process of Google is a scary place. And when you Google something, especially when you're a younger patient, it is going to give you terrifying results in a lot of ways. And I didn't want that for people. I wanted to give them hope and inspiration, and just also real, raw, this is what the world can look like from a young breast cancer survivor patient's perspective. So I share pretty much all different things. I share about when I was single and dating, and I had to tell people about my no boobs and nipples, just the whole thing. I share about not having nipples and what that experience is like. I try to make it a little bit more light and fun. And then I share a lot about the differences between what a real boob and a foob is as well. And then more into my experiences with the treatment side of things. So what chemo was like, what going through a double mastectomy was like, and then what life after cancer can look like too. I like to share that, showcase that, how my life has transpired from when I was at my weakest to now feeling like I'm at my strongest. So I kind of just piecemeal a lot of that different experience together, and anything that I feel is true to me, that's kind of what I'm showcasing and hoping that is part of my advocacy journey, is showcasing any part of that so that people can ask questions. And I try to like look at all the comments, and if people have a question that I can help answer, then I'll answer that and try to diversify the content that way so that I'm getting back to people with, like Paige was saying, what I know. And I'll always caveat things that I don't know because I don't know everything and I'm not a doctor, but I try to guide people in the best way possible. And I'm always speaking from my experience. So that's also a caveat that I like to share, is that, you know, this is my experience. Everyone's experience is very unique. And that is always a point that I try to make very clear, is that everyone's experience is really different, but here's mine. And if this like gives you light into what it's like, or if it gives you means to have questions that you can share with your team, like all of those different things, or the emotional side of it, I'll share all of it.
Each of you have created your own community, you know, on social media and Camp Breasty, because, you know, people come to you because they trust you, they feel safe with you, they can feel like you're being your best self, your most authentic self. Being an advocate means being whatever you want, sharing your voice however you want, but knowing also that there is a space to go to where you can feel safe and feel supported and feel cared for. At the end of the day, the things that we do, that Dani does and Paige does, is we want to give you a space to come to that is a sacred space where you can breathe, where you can feel included and feel like you are being held in a place of protection and with your breasties. Everyone, thanks for watching these two beautiful souls, and thanks for being with us today on this episode of Breathe TV. I'm Paige More, and I'm your host. And until next time, love yourself, love others, and live your best life, because life is epic and it's yours to be enjoyed. Bye for now.